Hey, what's up? This is the Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. I'm NJ. He's MIB. It is Thursday, October 28, 2021. We are coming off a Maple Leafs win, 3-2 in Chicago. William Nylander with the overtime victor. Jack Campbell making some big saves to help the Leafs get 2 points. Mike, the Leafs are in the win column, but the bleeding has not stopped.
No. And I mean, it's funny because after the game last night, I did the Twitter Spaces thing again, and I was prepared for the response that I think half of Leaf Nation said. It's like, okay, we got to win, but it's against Chicago. But after the first period, or after 10 or 11 minutes of the first period, you were saying, everybody was saying, oh, crap, they're down 2-0 to Chicago. Like, Chicago had not led for 1 minute in the 6 games that they had played. And, of course, they get the first goal against the Leafs, and then they go up 2-0, and you're thinking, this is Pittsburgh all over again because they're without Kane. Taves ended up playing but really wasn't much of a factor. And the Leafs, after what I thought was a fairly bad first period, sort of gathered it together, got a nice goal by Tavares, tied it up late, not late, but with like 8 minutes left to go in the third period. Had a lot of opportunities, just could not bury the puck, but then get the goal in overtime. And like I said on Twitter, I think that this victory, if it's a turnaround for them this season, you put it on the shoulders of Jack Campbell, because Jack Campbell was the difference.
Yeah, I can't see this being a turnaround, Mike, in the sense of the Leafs going on a 10-game win. There are still too many flaws with the team. The weight remains heavy. Is it a victory that could lead to a few more victories to come over the next week and a bit, with play that is statistically better than it has been, giving fans a sense that something may be coming? Well, that remains to be seen. They may still put up a dud against a much improved Red Wings team this Saturday. However, in the moment, despite the flaws that we've seen, despite the team going down early, despite a lot of the things that we liked and disliked throughout that 60 minutes plus in Chicago last night, at the end of the day, the team got 2 points. And, if ultimately it's in contention for a division or fighting for a playoff spot, the 2 points they picked up against Chicago, a team they should have beaten, no matter how heavy things are right now, will prove crucial.
Well, I think it was an alleviation of pressure more than anything. Okay, yes, you can say they should beat Chicago. Well, they should have beaten Pittsburgh with nobody in the lineup. I mean, Captain might have been their best player that night, and they won 7-1. Now that was an embarrassment to this team. And apparently, after the first period, where again they were, I think, gripping it pretty tight and not playing particularly well, they, a few words were said in the locker room, and I mean, I'm not thinking it's rah sis boom ba, but it's like, okay. There definitely was a difference in the team coming out in the second period and playing for the rest of the game. So the fact that they beat a shorthanded, bad Chicago Blackhawks team with an organization reeling from all the news that's gone on is not to say they're ready to go and win 10 in a row, as you said. But it's A, is better than a loss, and B, it's something to build on. And like I said, it's like with this team, their fortunes, good or bad, rely on the core group competing and contributing. And last night, Marner with a nice assist, a nice dish on the Tavares goal. And then the combination of Nylander and Matthews on the winning goal in overtime. And they get a goal from David Kampf, who had his quota for the year. He had one last year, so now he's got one this year, and that works. But none of that's possible if Campbell doesn't make a couple incredible 10 bell save. I mean, the one that he made on DeBrincat where it was like post to post and he snaked out the left pad, and the one he made just before the Nylander goal in overtime. I mean, he got a little bit of it and it just knocked it wide. I mean, those are difference makers. So the only thing, and, you know, I mean, I was as skeptical as anybody in regards to Jack Campbell coming into the season being able to handle the number one job. I mean, I think ability-wise he could, but in terms of playing the amount of games that Freddie Anderson played over the last few years, you know, his injury history did not lend itself to the possibility that he could do that. Now, he's been forced into that this year because of Mrazek's injury, and right now the schedule has been kind in the fact that they've had a day or two in between games, and it's enabled him to be able to play and play effectively. They can't wait till Mrazek gets back, though, because I think they want to give Mrazek some work and give Campbell time to recuperate. But they need Campbell to play like this, and they'll need Mrazek to play close to this for them to get victories.
This is the combo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. Mike's in Cheektowaga. I am in London. 0% on Escape and Edge continues on. We're pushing up against the end of October. Things usually conclude with a flurry finish. Lots of car deals to be had. If you're local, if you're out of town, wherever you are, you have any questions about a potential purchase or lease on a vehicle, you can get at me in community. You can also get at me on Twitter at I am Norman James. Mike, the Leafs tactically and statistically get what they need out of Chicago, move on to Detroit, and that's there will be two things happening at the same time concurrently throughout the season. The Leafs doing what they need to do or not doing what is required of them on the ice, and then everything else that is happening off of it, meaning the reaction to the playoff loss, and no matter what happens, the team being under the microscope, and people wanting heads to roll. So you're always going to have that, and then in real time, the Leafs either playing well or not. Sure, they got a win last night, and they may beat Detroit. How are we going to balance this? Because most people believe that changes will need to be made, maybe potentially a philosophical redirection at some point, no matter what is taking place on the ice. There's goodwill potentially to come, but we can't lose sight of, in general, the alterations that probably need to take place for this team to really get straight on the right track. And, could we get to the point where, we're just, the hysteria machine will continue on.
Well, I mean,
while on the ice, sorry, and I apologize for being long-winded, while on the ice, things are beginning to improve, and we won't be able to see the forest through the trees, so to speak, as a team is actually starting to get better, because we're just so ginned up on the negativity that is carried over from last season, and the belief that things will go bust.
Well, I mean, that is Toronto, and we just have to accept it. I mean, and I'm sure that's the normal for Kyle Dubas and Brendan Shanahan and Sheldon Keefe. I mean, we're 6 games into the season now, 7 games in the season now, 8, and we had fired Dubas being a trend on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I get it. I mean, I understand the fan base is pissed off. They don't like the direction of this team. They thought they believe they were sold a bill of goods in terms of this team's success. They lose to the hated Habs last year. Now they get off to a slow start, and they're pissed. And I get it. But the thing is, the organization can't operate at the whim of the fans. And if they do, then it's a cluster of an organization. And then that's the one thing they don't do. They're not going to do that. Now, at the end of the year, if they lose in the opening round or don't make the playoffs, then the chickens are going to come home to roost. You can call for fire Dubas, fire Keefe all you want. I don't think it's happening during the regular season. And the one benefit of what we've seen so far in their division, nobody in their right mind believes that the Buffalo Sabres and the Detroit Red Wings, who are currently in second and third place, will not be seventh or eighth in this division at the end of the year. Okay. Tampa Bay is without Nikita Kucherov for 2.5 months, and they're not the Tampa Bay Lightning that won consecutive cups. They're not that as deep as they were. They're a great team with great players, but their margin for error. In previous years, they could afford to not have Kucherov or Stamkos for the year. That's not the case this year. They're hurting without Kucherov. They're going to be hurting. Boston has started off slowly. Ottawa is a team with holes. Montreal is Montreal. They're a cluster F of the highest order. So,
and if you're doing a podcast on the Senators or the Oilers or whichever team, and you're talking about their opposition, how are you describing the Leafs? In the same way you're describing these other teams, Mike.
Right. Oh no, that's definitely the case. But what I'm saying is that as the Atlantic Division was thought going into the season, if the Leafs got off to a really slow start, they were in trouble because they'd be falling behind Boston and Tampa and Florida, who's 7-0. But now, if you look at it in the reality of where the division is, they won one game. They had lost 4 games in a row. They won 1 game. They're already 2 points out of second place. So, does that mean that they're a good team? No. Does that mean that they can put themselves in a position where they can succeed and then gather themselves throughout the year and have some success? Yes. And maybe things improve. Right now, things have just gotten off to a slow start, and players who there were some expectations on have not lived up to them. And the core group that has been dependable for the last 3 or 4 years has not lived up to their expectations. And I have no reason to think that they won't. So once that's straightened out, then things will fall into place.
Will it ever be straightened out, though, Mike? In baseball, a team can get off to a hot start and be in first place at the end of April. There are 162 games in the season. Well, be in first place at the right time. The Atlanta Braves weren't 500 until game 112.
Yep.
And I think they're going to win the World Series now.
I hope so.
Me too. There's definitely, because your Astros, play clean, and
my Astros.
So again, there's a thing, the ascent and the rise and momentum. They're all things, and the Maple Leafs may get caught up in all of those things and bust into the playoffs and finally get this done. In 7 months, we could be looking back and going, remember how insane we were? But that doesn't mean the way we feel right now is asinine or unfortunate or out of line. No. What we're seeing right now, it just gins up the pessimism that was left over from that Montreal Canadiens series. And again, the team can string wins together. There's still going to be a feeling that something has to change, that there, a philosophical change, that the core 4 is still tying up too much money. Pessimism will prevail over this season, and it's just something that we're going to have to live with. That's why I wanted to, on a daily basis and throughout these podcasts that we do, just live in the moment, and without dredging up too many of the bad memories, without dreading too much of what's to come. And again, they beat Chicago 3-2. They did what they had to do. They squeaked by, but they got the deuce. William Nylander, Marner, Tavares, Matthews, all getting on the board. Some of the guys you'd never think would even produce points get on the board. Well, kind of the collective that we needed to see from the team, and that the team needs to do to win games. They did. Now it's on to Detroit on Saturday. Just a few more minutes, Mike.
Well, I mean, regular season victories are essential, are vital to get into the playoffs, but they're sort of empty calories. That's
true. Good call.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, whereas playoff victories are sort of complex carbohydrates. It's like, what I'm saying? It's like, great. You need the regular season victories, but they don't prove crap. Mm-hmm. And a victory over Chicago in the middle of October or late October doesn't really mean anything other than they needed the 2 points badly because they had given away points. Everybody expected them to beat a San Jose team that nobody believes is real, but San Jose came into Scotiabank Arena and beat them. Everybody expected them to beat a Pittsburgh team that was devastated by COVID and injuries. They didn't. Now, I didn't expect them to win in Carolina. That was probably the best of those 3 games, but they still lost. Mm-hmm. They needed to beat Chicago because they're better than Chicago. They're better than Detroit. Are they better than Vegas without Stone and Pacioretty? We'll see. But right now they're entering a 5-game homestand. And, thankfully for them, they got a victory beforehand because if they had come back after losing 3 games in a row, one bad play and everybody would be booing their ass off at Scotiabank Arena, and they'd be justified because the team is not living up to expectations. Now they have a 5-game homestand. They've got to win probably, I'd say, 4 of those 5 games to sort of catch up to where they're supposed to be. Will they do it? Well, we'll be here to talk about it.
Let's just go through the chat. Corey Trevor is here. Still love the Trailer Park Boys reference. I've been watching that series again. Joe Shedler, CC times Ashton, Enzo the Commissioner, Terry 3Gs, Ty Kroll getting at it this morning. Ty, I wouldn't call beating Chicago barely turning it around. They did what they had to do at making amends a little bit for not beating teams like San Jose. And who's the other team that they were supposed to clobber?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. But this is the time of the year where the unsung heroes and the little teams that could and the squads that'll end up getting decimated surprise the competition. And the Maple Leafs, for all the power and the might that they think they have, were ripe for the picking at this point of the season with so much pressure on them and really gripping their sticks too tight. You had to think if there was ever a time for a bottom feeder or a team not necessarily worthy to overcome a Titan, it's now. And clearly that's what San Jose, Pittsburgh, and Chicago nearly did to the Maple Leafs. So, Mike, we live in the moment. They're up against Detroit. You're never going to be able to hold off that faction that wants Dubas fired or Keefe fired or Marner kicked out of town and sent to Magnitogorsk. It's going to be there. It's going to be there. And we just have to deal with it. We dabble in it, and then we pull back. We dabble in it, we pull back based on what's going on. If we're taking positive steps, though, regardless of who's in and who's out, how do the Leafs continue to push forward and build off this 3-2 win? Last point to you.
Well, I think that one of the things that stood out yesterday was the ineffectiveness of, and I'm not narrowing the focus on these particular players, but you could see that that Jake Muzzin and Justin Hall as a pairing are really struggling, and they're getting a ton of minutes. I'm looking at it right now. Hall played 21 minutes. Muzzin played a little under 20. They're the second pairing, but they're the matchup pairing, and they were on the ice for both goals, for the Dotch goal, which was a power play goal, and DeBrincat's goal. And on the Dotch goal, Muzzin gets walked by Dotch. And that's the thing. Jake Muzzin is supposed to be the team's best defensive defenseman. He's won a Stanley Cup.
Guys will be beaten though, Mike. There are fast skaters out there, and there are guys.
No, I know, but Norm, this is a trend this year. He's been on the ice for I think 11 goals. That you expect that out of Aki Berg. You don't expect it out of Jake Muzzin. So there may be something going on with injury, but he's not playing the way that they need him to play. And that may be an early season hiccup, and it may go by the wayside in a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden he looks like the Jake Muzzin of old. But I think it's been part of the early season struggles, and they need the pairing that is considered their shutdown pairing, their big defensive pairing, to sort of step up and play better.
Marcus Daly, Norm's 100% correct. According to my wife, Marcus, I am 0% correct. And Deepak Scars, love your work, guys. Deepak Scars, thanks for being in the chat with us. What is Thursday? It's a work day, and we've got some people on board. It's really nice to know that we have OGs in commerce to support us. We appreciate you big time. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, hit the bell icon, like this post. If you're listening on podcast, which you can do a little bit after we do the live show, subscribe to that local platform. Again, it means so much to us. It helps lift our spirits a little bit, especially when times are down. And I apologize if we're not ranting and raving and wanting everybody executed and called. And I also apologize to those who want us to bang the drum and bleed blue. We've been around too long. And again, the idea for this entire season of shows is to live in the moment. So we're living in the moment right now. There's no real reason as of right now to freak out, but there's also not a lot of reason to be incredibly optimistic. Just take it game by game. The Leafs get 2 more points. I would like to see more out of Marner. I'd like to see a little bit more creativity, Mike. I want to see him move the puck a little bit more. You notice how he didn't start the 3-on-3 with, I think it was Matthews, Nylander, and Riley. Those are the guys that Nylander's earned it. Matthews always has to be out there. I don't know if that's a message sent or just, hey, you know what? We're going to go with the guys we think are going to do the trick for us. Got the winner, and that was great for him. Mike, let's see if we can develop a little bit more harmony as we go forward, as opposed to acrimony. I'm not totally optimistic about that. However, we take it game by game. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys. Leafs Convo out.